One of the things that I really like about, there are many things I like about this Cityscape conference, but one of the things, and one is the variety. One year is never the same as the next. But one of the common threads is that the guys from JLL every year have produced a really, really good piece of thematic research. A couple of years ago, they looked at affordable housing. And that was set the benchmark for the discussion, really, on affordable housing. And then last year, I think it was education they focused on. Their theme was education. And this year, they've done another piece of cracking thematic research, and they do it specifically for this event. This is just something that they trot out. Oh, where's our latest report? That will do for Cityscape. They produce a piece of research for Cityscape every year. They spend an awful lot of time doing it. And the research is led by the head of research for JLL in this region and his team, Craig Plumb. I'm delighted to say that Craig is with us now. The title of his presentation is Healthcare, an Emerging Real Estate Asset Class. Join me in welcoming Craig Plumb from JLL. Choose your weapon, sir.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and it's my pleasure to be speaking at Cityscape again today. We all like to be exclusive, don't we? We always want to be in an exclusive club. We always want to trade up from Emirates Blue membership to silver to gold to platinum or whatever comes next. I'm pleased to say I joined an exclusive club this summer. I'm now part of only 1.2% of the population of Dubai. Very exclusive, as you can see. 1.2% of the population of Dubai, and that's people that are aged over 60 years old. So, welcome to the club, for those of you who have already met that club. One of the things about aging, and it's obviously like tax, it's something we can never totally avoid, is that our bodies wear out. So one of the things, the reason I mention that is because I, along with many of you others in this room, are probably going to be more reliant upon healthcare and medical facilities in the future than we have been in the past. It's a fact of life. So that was one of the reasons why we decided to do this piece of research, to look at what's the prospects for the healthcare sector as a real estate investment category in the Middle East. This morning I'd like to answer that question with 3 points. Firstly, why? Secondly, who? And thirdly, how many? So we're going to look at, and this is the research that we've been doing, we're looking at why healthcare is an important sector and will be a growing sector. We're looking at who can invest in that sector or be involved in that sector from a real estate perspective, and we're looking at how many additional medical centres or hospitals or other parts of the medical sector we will need in the UAE going forward. So why, who, and how? Firstly, let's spend a few minutes looking at the why. Why healthcare? As Richard said in his introduction, JLL have been looking at what we're calling alternative asset classes for the last couple of years. And the reason we're doing that is because we believe that the real estate industry is looking beyond the traditional sectors of retail and office and residential and hotels. They're looking for new alternative asset classes. And so why does healthcare fall into that category? Well, firstly, because there is increasing demand. I won't go through all the points on this slide, but we can see that there's a number of factors here which are leading for additional demand for healthcare. It's not just that we're getting older, it's in line with government policies, it's population growth, so that the overall growth of the population. Just a couple of statistics. The population of the UAE is only growing at about 1.9%, but the aging population, those who are over 65 in this case, is growing at 4.4%. So we've got not just a growing population, but we've got an aging population. We've also got a high predominance of a number of what we're calling lifestyle diseases. These are things like obesity, diabetes, and other lifestyle diseases that need to be addressed. And the government policies has recognized the need to do that. We've also got high disposable incomes. That means people can afford to pay for treatments. We're starting to see the growth of medical tourism, and we're also seeing mandatory health insurance. So these are all government initiatives to drive the growth of the healthcare sector. So I hope you can agree, and there's some more data in our report that I'll show you in a minute, that there is likely to be increased demand for healthcare or medical facilities. So that's always a good starting point for any real estate sector. But not only do we have increased demand, we also have a shortage of supply. So we're perhaps looking at a little bit of extent here of maybe a perfect storm. We've all heard a lot of stories about Hurricane Harvey and other storms over the last few weeks. Well, this might be a good perfect storm in the fact we've got growing demand and we've got an undersupply of healthcare facilities in the region. And that's one of the things that government policy is trying to address. This is a basic stat. It says that basically across the OECD, the top 35 developed economies worldwide, there is 4.8 hospital beds per every 1,000 people. In the Middle East region, that's 1.9 beds per 1,000 people. And in Dubai, it's about 2.1 beds per 1,000 people. So you can see, just based on that, there is an undersupply of hospital beds. We could have put statistics in about other clinics and other parts of the healthcare sector, but this was just an easy one to demonstrate. So there is currently a shortage of supply, and that linked with a growing demand would suggest this is a sector that the real estate industry should take seriously. But it's not just a numbers game. There's also a structural change going on within the industry. And what we're seeing is that governments, for some of those reasons that Anita just commented on, governments are looking to spread the cost of healthcare away from the public sector and into the private sector. So it's not just that there's growing demand, it's also that private sector investment is being sought to replace the government investment that has traditionally funded the healthcare sector. So we've got those three things. We've got government policies, we've got growing demand, and we've got an undersupply, which we believe is the why healthcare is an important sector. When we're talking about healthcare, I think it's interesting to note that we're not just talking about hospitals. What we've done here is we've looked across the region at different sorts of healthcare facilities. So some of them could be very large scale medical cities. Obviously we've got the Dubai Healthcare City as a good example of that in Dubai. Others could be obviously specialist hospitals, and at the end of the day they are very specialist facilities and not going to attract everybody from the real estate industry. But we're also talking about demand in terms of clinics and non-specialist facilities. And those sorts of medical centres, clinics, can be very easily accommodated in retail malls, very easily accommodated in office buildings. I wonder if I was the only one in coming to the Conrad this morning that went into the valet parking for a hospital instead of for the hotel. But I certainly didn't know this, but within this building, Emirates Hospital has one of their clinics. So we're not just talking about specialist hospitals here, we're talking about the need for medical facilities, and they can be incorporated in the Dubai Mall, they can be incorporated in the Conrad Hotel building, they can be incorporated in an office building. We're not just talking about very specialist full-service hospitals here or medical cities. So we believe there's something in this for everybody. Let's start with the real estate investors. I'm not going to go through all these points in detail, but really there's two main attractions for real estate investors. It's a relatively defensive sector. It's not as dependent on the overall economy as, let's say, offices or residential or retail. So it's defensive, and it gives you some sort of business resilience in times when the overall economy is perhaps not doing so well. It also allows you to diversify your assets, and we all know the benefits of diversification. The other main benefit is it tends to be a secure income stream and a long-term triple net lease. So if you can attract a major medical provider, a major clinic or hospital on a 10 or 15-year lease on a triple net basis, obviously that's attractive to some real estate investors. So that's why we believe the market is attractive to the investment sector. One particular thing that we believe we'll see more of is that we'll see more public-private partnerships, or PPPs. I haven't been able to put any pictures up of PPPs in the healthcare sector yet because there aren't any in the region in terms of completed projects, but there's certainly a lot that are being talked about at the moment. PPPs have obviously been used to fund bridges and power stations and major roads. We think the next tier of PPPs is going to be to fund, let's call it social infrastructure, such as schools, such as hospitals, and we'll see PPPs, and we'll also see more specialist property trusts or REITs in this space as well. But it's obviously not just real estate investors that can be involved in the healthcare sector. We believe there's also attractions in the healthcare sector for developers and landowners. These are some of the reasons why, as a developer or a landowner, you might want to include some form of medical or healthcare facility in your project. Again, for many, it won't be a full-line hospital. It'll be a clinic or some sort of health center that you can incorporate in a mixed-use building. But certainly for developers, landowners are taking this sector more seriously, and we're seeing now that there is quite a lot of demand within office space and within secondary space within retail malls for this type of healthcare facility, replacing retail space, replacing office tenant demand. But it's not only investors and it's not only developers. There's also a role for contractors and builders. I think one of the themes I think will come out of Cityscape this year in big time is we're moving into the stage the next couple of years. There's going to be a lot of questions about delivery. Project delivery is going to be a key question, whether it's in terms of Expo, whether it's in terms of many of the other projects that have been launched. How those projects will be delivered is critical. So there's an important role here for the developer, the contractors and the builders amongst us to make sure that we're delivering healthcare facilities on time, on budget, and there can be some attractive returns for the development community from this sector. So there's those three parts of the market. That's the who, if you like. Now let's move on to the final question, which is quantifying the opportunity. How many more hospitals do we think we will need? How many more medical clinics do we think we're going to need to satisfy that future demand? The slides I'm going to put up now are only quantifying the demand for hospital beds. We could do the same exercise for clinics and for other facilities, but just for the sake of brevity today, this is just the numbers for hospital beds that Dubai and all the other cities in the region need just to keep the same provision rate that we have at the moment. As I mentioned, the provision rate in Dubai is about 2.1 beds per 1,000 people. If we want to keep that same provision rate, we need another 1,050 hospital beds, another 7 hospitals in Dubai over the next 5 years. That's without even getting close to the global average. And you can see there that it's not only Dubai, we're talking about the other cities in the region as well, that we need additional hospital beds across the region just to satisfy the growing population demand. If you then factor into that the fact that the government wants to get closer to those OECD standards that I mentioned earlier, then you can see we need a lot more hospital beds. Particularly in Cairo, we need a huge number of hospital beds and a huge number of additional hospitals. Now, I don't think for a minute anybody's going to suggesting we're going to get close to these numbers, but the point is, you can see within Dubai we need another 50, 60 hospitals if we want to get to that global standard, which of course the government wants to achieve. We've heard about the government's ambitious targets in respect of Expo. We've heard about their ambitious targets in respect of blockchain. They've also got ambitious targets in respect of healthcare provision. So in order to reach those sorts of targets of international global best practice, we need a lot more hospital beds in Dubai and across the region. And we, as the real estate industry, have obviously got a role to play as part of that. Conscious another theme of this event over the next couple of days is going to be around technology. So what we've done is we've put some interactive maps in our report for which you're going to need to go to the website. When you came in today, you would have got a copy of this report on your desk, on your chair. I'm sorry, we're going against the government policy. We're still producing paper. I promise by 2020 we won't print any reports and you won't have any paper, but for today at least, you've got a document on your chair which presents our major findings in more detail. That's called Healthy Returns. And within that, you'll see that there are a series of maps. This is the map for Dubai. Now, unfortunately, the technology we have at the moment doesn't allow me to be terribly interactive with this map in this presentation because we were worried about the quality of the connection. But if you go onto our website after tomorrow at 11 o'clock, and I'll give you the URL for the website in a minute, you'll be able to click on this map and you'll be able to see what these hospitals are. You'll be able to see what the drive time zones for these hospitals are. You'll be able to see areas of Dubai that are perhaps not as well provided as others in terms of current hospital provision. But just in terms of snapshot, there are 47 major hospitals in Dubai at the moment. These are the dots on this map, and we split them between public and private. You can see that most of them are private. That's not very terribly clear from there, but most of them are at the private sector, and most of them are in the old part of Dubai, obviously healthcare city, Deira, Dubai. That's where there's a concentration of hospital facilities, much less in the new parts of Dubai. And that's what basically that map will show as you can play on it on the website at your convenience over the next few days. And we also have maps in there for the other cities across the region as well. So just drawing this together, as I say, we think we're kind of suggesting this is a good opportunity for real estate investors to get into. Of course, there are going to be constraints. Of course, there are challenges. And in the report, again, we highlight what some of those challenges are. This is not all going to be smooth sailing. Of course, there's going to be ups and downs. There's going to be cycles. Not every asset is going to be a good one to develop or a good one to invest in. But generally, talking at the high level, we believe this is an asset class worthy of your attention. For these three reasons I've already mentioned, we've got strong government demand, we've got a growth of population and a growth of demand, and we've got an undersupply. So if that doesn't create something of a perfect storm, you can't say that in respect of many other sectors of the real estate industry at the moment. So we believe that is why there will be healthy returns available for you as investors, for you as developers, for you as contractors, from putting some time and some effort in looking at this healthcare sector. So with that, I will just draw this to a close by thanking you. This is a picture of the report, and also on there is the URL to website. As I say, from 11 o'clock tomorrow, you'll be able to get this report from there. You'll be able to look at the interactive parts of that report. If any of you have any more questions, we look forward to seeing you at Cityscape across the road over the next few days. But with that, thank you very much.
I think we will thank you, Craig. We might take one or two questions on this. And by the way, Wouter was going to get you a 60th birthday cake, but health and safety wouldn't allow 60 candles. But the thought was definitely there. We'll take a couple of very quick questions. There's a hand right on the far side up, stretched proudly into the air. Can we get a microphone to this gentleman? Keep your hand raised, sir. Keep your hand raised. There you go. This gentleman right here. Thank you, sir.
Hi, my name is Satish Kumar. I'm from the healthcare segment. I'm very happy to see the growth opportunities in healthcare in the overall Middle East. But I have a couple of questions. I believe you must have done intensive research on the opportunities in healthcare in the Middle East. And my first question is, especially if you can zero down to UAE, is there any a real gap in terms of number of beds? Because
we'll leave it there. We're short of time, so we'll take that question. Is there any guarantee in terms of number of beds? And I guess the question
because I've seen one report earlier by one of the leading consultants saying that by 2019, at least in Dubai, we are going to have excess beds. Because the number of, I would like to again ask.
I'm going to have to cut you off there, sir. We're short of time. Thank you very much indeed, Craig.
The short answer: there is no guarantee. Dubai Health Authority does set targets there's no guarantee. And one of the discussions I had with Richard this morning, he was kind of suggesting that the education market is becoming more competitive now. Perhaps there's too many people jumping on that bandwagon of looking at schools. The same thing could, of course, be possible with hospitals. We could finish up with an oversupply in the future. But I don't think we're certainly in that position today. And that's why I'm keen to stress we're not just talking about hospital beds. We're talking about the healthcare sector more generally. And I think we can definitely see we're going to need more dental clinics. We're going to need more healthcare medical centres, not just hospitals. But we will definitely need more hospital beds.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you, sir. We're going to have to move on. I hate to cut you off, and I really wish we had more time, but we do need to move on. It's a great question. Thank you very much indeed.
We'll see you at Cityscape tomorrow.
Craig will be happy to continue this conversation. Craig, thanks very much indeed. Nice to see you. Thanks as ever for your research.